All right, so it's Tool Time Tuesday. Can you see my screen okay, Leslie?
I certainly can.
Okay. It's Tool Time Tuesday, and it is session 102. And Leslie and I are going to talk about privacy today. If you weren't aware, it's Data Literacy Month. So we, as librarians, really care about your data literacy and your privacy in general. So we're talking about kind of your data privacy is what I'm trying to say, how you can protect yourself. Of course, we want to protect our patients. That's number one. And we want to protect our personnel and each other. But this is really focused kind of on protecting yourself. That's what we're going to focus on today. And feel free to add some additional ideas in the chat along the way. So I'm Larissa, my co-host is Leslie. We're from the library. You can find us on Insight if you type in library, or you can Google us at MD Anderson Library, and we're here for you. We have some upcoming classes. We have an EndNote 21 class on importing references. We have a new PubMed class on finding and saving articles. And we have a Dear Editor session coming up on, we're going to have a special guest speaker. Again, we're talking a little bit more about data and data literacy. If you do anything with publishing or research, you probably want to attend the data literacy sessions that are coming up that are on the events calendar on Insight, and we'll keep promoting them on Teams as well. Let's start with privacy. So we're going to talk about privacy and we're going to talk about security. There have been several things in the news. I mean, it's really never ending, actually, about privacy breaches. One big one was the Social Security breach. If you didn't see that, you can go to Google News and check that out. A lot of people's Social Security numbers were stolen, but you've probably received notifications about privacy breaches in various ways. So we're going to talk a little bit about protecting yourself moving forward. So the first thing you want to think about is some privacy while you're browsing. So something that you can do regularly for yourself is you can clear your cache frequently. You can also set your browser to clear your cache when you close it, each time you close out the browser. You can also use an incognito window or a private window when you're browsing. This keeps the browser from tracking or storing your activity. Keep in mind when you search incognito, it's not 100% private. So I don't need to know what you're doing when you're searching, but just to let you know, just because you go incognito doesn't mean there isn't some data that's stored or tracked. Even if you delete your browsing history too, administrators can recover it. So you've probably seen, if you've ever watched a crime show where there are crime scene experts who can recover things like your phone history and your browser history, even if you deleted it. So those things are never totally gone. So you want to be mindful of that when you're searching on your computer. There are some personal searching browsers you can try, or search engines. DuckDuckGo is one, Opera. There's also Privacy Badger and Ghostery. Leslie just mentioned both of these to me. There's Chrome add-ons you can add for private browsing and private searching, and there is just complete browsers you can download for more privacy, and you could do that on your phone or on your personal computer as well. And you may have some ideas about other private search engines, and you're welcome to, or we'd love for you to share those in the chat. You can also use an ad blocker. An ad blocker just adds some additional layers of security and privacy so that you don't get malicious ads popping up. Basically, we're mentioning some of the same products. There's Privacy Badger, DuckDuckGo, Ghostery. There's also AdBlock Plus. There's a lot of them out there. So make sure you're using one that's vetted. But these are some things you can do to block some additional ads and make sure you're not getting malicious ads coming through. You can also turn off ad personalization. So I think we've all searched or been on a social media site where you're getting personalized ads based on something you've searched for before, maybe based on your age. Like they think it's time for you to get married. It's time for you to have kids. It's time for you to, I don't know, go travel, whatever it is. I'm getting menopausal ads right now. So like, thank you very much for that. So you can turn these things off. In Apple and in Facebook, on Google, there's lots of ways you can turn off those personalized ads to try to keep them from tracking what you're browsing and then pushing those ads to you as well. Also, I think, Leslie, if you use an ad blocker, some of them have you want to do both of these things, right, Leslie?
Yes, you want to do both of these things, even if you have an ad blocker.
Okay. Because this is keeping you from tracking like your personalized data, but the ad blocker's blocking possibly malicious ads.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clear it. There's a lot of sort of repeated terms that we use for privacy and security, and sometimes it gets a little confusing. So just wanted to clarify there. Another thing that we read about was deleting unnecessary apps. This is helpful just if you're doing some spring cleaning, but apps collect a lot more data and store a lot more data than you might be aware of. So if you're not using an app on your phone, it might be time to go through and delete some of those apps. They collect a lot of data through apps and they sell them to other companies. I think we've all received the little pop-ups. Do you want to allow notifications? Do you want to allow them to collect our data? A lot of us click yes without thinking about it. So because we're just going through our day, but you can delete these apps and start fresh again. Think of an app as a database versus going to a browser where you can clear your history or maintain some modicum of privacy. That app is collecting and storing that data into a database, and it's easy then for the company to open, read, and of course sell. So the recommendation was to use a browser instead of an app if you can. I realize that's not always practical, but if it's an app you're really not using much, then you might consider deleting it and seeing if you can go without it. Also, just good way to spring clean. So that's a little bit about privacy. Let's talk about security as well. So we saw this on Inside just recently. There was an article about protecting your LinkedIn account. So you can always check that out. They're talking about a lot of the same things we're talking about today. One of them is passwords. So be sure to create strong, unique passwords. You can use passphrases instead of passwords. That's the recommendation. Oops, I got an echo there. Thanks. You use passphrases instead of passwords. So an example of that we made, this is just nonsense and it's neither one of our passwords, but you can say something like blue pancakes, airplanes. It should just be a random passphrase versus a password. Make sure it's no shorter than 16 characters. The longer it is, the longer it takes to sort of for someone to hack and to break the password. So longer is better. It makes it harder for someone to get to it. And complex characters can make it even more secure. So I think most of us know that a lot of times we're required to put an additional character in there to make it a little bit more secure. You also want to change your passwords fairly frequently. I know it's a pain in the you-know-what to change your password, but it's a good idea to do. I think we've all heard about or experienced someone stealing something from one of our accounts or getting into one of our accounts. So one way you can help is to change your passwords frequently. You can also use a password manager. These will create random passwords for you, which is helpful so you don't have to remember all of them. There's lots of password managers out there. So if you want to share in the chat which ones you prefer, I use a password manager because it helps me maintain my passwords, but also I take care of my elderly mother. I can maintain her passwords as well. There's no way I could remember all of hers and all of mine as well. Yeah. So someone mentioned in the chat that their husband's LinkedIn was hacked at 3 a.m. the other night, and they had to go through the whole process to get it back.
And it is not an easy process either.
No. And
if your account is hacked.
And Leslie and I have talked about this a lot lately because we've known personally people who've had their computers hacked or had been scammed in some way. And it's devastating when it happens. It's so much time and energy, and it's such a violation. So yeah, just be aware out there. Okay, So the other thing that I know is annoying sometimes, but it's important, is multi-factor or that two-factor authentication. This is when we get a text message to log into our account or an authenticator app like Duo, or maybe you've used Google Authenticator. If you haven't enacted these, you can do this on LinkedIn as well. You need to do this to protect your accounts. It's also helpful if you forget your password and you need to recover it, so that's nice. But it is really just an extra layer of protection. So if someone is able to get to your password, they're not going to necessarily be able to use that authenticator app to approve the login. And I think you know that if you get a code and you're not trying to log in, don't approve the code. We've been told this over and over again. It's sort of natural to want to just click your screen and get it to move off, but don't approve the code if it comes through and you're not the one actively trying to log in. Report suspicious authentication texts or pushes to your provider, for instance, your bank, or to 4Info. If you start getting suspicious pushes too, that might be a time to go in and change your password and make some changes there. Okay. So I know the two-factor authentication is a bit of a pain, but it is important. It's another additional layer of security you can add. For phishing, we've talked about phishing before. I'm sorry to talk about it again, but it's still here and it's getting more and more clever. Report suspicious links to 4Info or to your email provider. If you're tempted to check the links, so let's say you get something from Blue Cross Blue Shield, or it seemingly looks like from Blue Cross Blue Shield, so that seems important. Instead of clicking on the link, go to the Blue Cross Blue Shield website, log into your account, and check and see if there's a message there, or reach out to Blue Cross Blue Shield and ask for more information. I just really try not to click on any link. I know sometimes you have to. The other thing I'll do is I'll ask my coworkers, did you receive this email? If they received it too, we can chat about it. We can check in with each other and make sure that hopefully it's not, suspicious in any way. And, if you have a Leslie on staff, she'll always catch it if it's suspicious. So that's helpful too. So, but you can't have her. So, if you think an email is phishing, you can also Google to see if it's a common scam. And we're going to talk about a couple of scam websites too. So for your personal email, if you see something, or if you get one of those weird text messages on your phone or a phone call and you're concerned, Google and see if that's a common scam, because a lot of times they are common scams that come up. So someone said they sometimes get a suspicious push asking them if they're trying to log into MD Anderson. Is it possible that that's sent internally to check our vigilance? I don't know, could be. I'm not sending those pushes, so I don't know. But best advice is just don't click on it and just report anything you think is phishing. Even if they maybe get bombarded with reports, that's okay. I think they'd rather you over-report than under-report. And just be careful what you okay for yourself and on your phone or on your laptop or just in your life. I don't know if they're sending us pushes, but good to know. Yeah, someone else mentioned that this happened during a power outage when their MD Anderson laptop turned back on after the power outage. They got a push. So I think sometimes it is innocent when you're getting the push, but if you're not actively using that account, you don't need to, accept a push. So one thing we do have available to us through Blue Cross Blue Shields, the part of our benefits is we have identity protection services. These are free for us. And I think you can set them up for your family members as well, though I haven't tried that piece yet. So we've given you the link for this. And of course, we're going to share this with you. So the things that it provides is an Experian credit report, credit monitoring, identity restoration, whatever Extend Care is, I'm not entirely sure. But they also have $1 million in identity theft insurance, which I hope nobody ever has to use. I don't have $1 million, so I'm going to guess that I wouldn't need that. But it's there for if you get in a bind. So go ahead and sign up for this because it's free. Why not? You may also already be signed up with your bank. A lot of banks offer free identity monitoring, and there's additional other free services available. So you could check with your bank as well. Okay, let's see if I missed anything. Okay. So you can also place a fraud alert on your credit at no cost. So you can go to Experian or Equifax or TransUnion. These are the three main tools you can use and place a fraud alert. So what this does is it requires businesses to take a few additional steps to verify your identity before they give you new credit. This may be a pain when you go to get a line of credit. It's going to give you a little bit of an extra step. It's kind of like that two-factor authentication. Yes, while it may seem like a pain in the beginning, it's going to give you that protection that someone else can't take out a credit card or a loan without your permission. So that's a fraud alert. You can also do a security freeze on your credit report. So this is different than a fraud alert. You can freeze your credit entirely, and that blocks you and anyone from applying for new credit without written consent. So if you know that you're not going to be getting a loan or a mortgage or going for a job or anything like that soon, signing up for a new apartment, whatever it is, then you could put the security freeze on your credit report. This would be for something pretty critical, like that Social Security breach. A lot of people put a security freeze on their credit report. You can't get any new credit until you release that freeze, which means you have to fill out a piece of paper and submit to release that freeze. Again, these are offered from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. This is like the top-notch way you can block fraud, at least from your credit. But again, it's going to slow you down. So keep that in mind if you're about to apply for a loan or a credit card or something, or you're about to move jobs or homes, then you don't want to do this at that time. So we want to just remind you to be alert. You can stay informed about the latest data breaches and scams. The FBI site has some scams and safety tips and information. The Social Security Administration also has some scam information, current scams and tips. We also found these two sites. The FTC has current scams listed. So if that's something you're interested in, but also you're just looking for current scams, the FTC is a reliable site. And the AARP has a tracking map for scams. So you can put in your zip code and see what scams are happening around you. And I think we know like scams can take all sorts of forms. It could be a phone call that you're getting. It could be a text message that you're getting. And so when those things happen, take a beat, take a breath, and look it up and make sure it is what you think it is. This is true just in life. When something bad happens or something scary happens, take a beat and assess your options here. So you can look up to see if those things are real or if they're fake, and it might help you get past it really quick. Okay, so someone said they have a security freeze and it's super easy to turn off and back on when needed. Oh, that's good to know. Okay, so someone had a security freeze and then they went to refinance their home and they were able to turn that freeze off really quickly. So that's an interesting thing that I honestly had not heard about until recently when that Social Security scam thing happened, data breach happened. So that was interesting. Okay, so you also need to freeze with each of the credit agencies. Interesting. So then you have to unfreeze with each of the credit agencies too, for those of you who've done it. Yes, and then you unfreeze. So, I mean, the good thing is we're not going for loans every day, so you wouldn't have to do that every day, but that's good to know. I'm so glad some of y'all have that experience. So, best practices. Don't assume that you have any privacy online, and we've said this before. Everything you're doing is being tracked by your employer, tracked by your internet provider, tracked by your phone provider, your location, everything you're searching, everything you're buying, your email. I mean, everything's being tracked. So be mindful of that. don't record, type, or send anything digitally if you're expecting 100% privacy. This has come up even more recently about healthcare privacy when people are trying to do things. Trying to be diplomatic here. Anything you put in a digital form is going to be recorded somewhere and could be used against you in some manner. So keep that in mind. Review your credit history regularly. Most banks offer this and make it pretty easy for you to review that credit history. Obviously, we've told you about the credit freeze that you can do as well. Don't try to do all these things we're talking about at once. It's overwhelming if you went back through to try to do all these things. Take one step at a time, like maybe go this evening and change some passwords, or look at the credit report identity reporting that you can look up on your bank or with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Don't put your social security number in a form online. It's very limited that you have to use your social security number. Anytime someone calls me over the phone for something, I ask them to send me an email with the information. I'm not going to give it to them over the phone. If I called them and I know that I called the authorized number, that's one thing. But I'm sorry, if you call me, I'm not going to just give it to you. Consider taking your devices to be evaluated. So I had a family member whose bank account got hacked recently. She could not figure out how they got into it. She ended up having malware on her computer, so she had to take her computer in to get it assessed. It's another thing you can do. Go to an authorized service dealer. So Micro Center is a great place. If you haven't been to Micro Center, if you're a computer nerd, they have great stuff, cool keyboards and monitors and stuff. And you can also go to the Best Buy Geek Squad, and some of you may have other ideas for where to go. And you can learn more about digital privacy from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They have a lot of educational materials that you could use, like for your family, to try to learn a little bit more about privacy. Okay. Does anyone have any other recommendations that they want to talk about, or thoughts, things they've done? Janice, did you have any other ideas, since I think you probably have some good experience.
Yeah, I've been breached. I swear it was like for a while there, I was getting like a letter every other week from like my retina surgeon, from, random things I haven't used in years kind of thing. So I just freeze the credit and it makes it a lot easier. I froze it the first time after I was one of the people here that was in that got hacked or something, or got scammed by somebody was trying to apply for unemployment in my name.
What?
Which was there's like about 300 of us that happened.